Ben Franklin, Marcus Aurelius, and then Socrates. And yeah, Socrates. I like reading their biographies, and they're like, Marcus Aurelius has this book that it's just his, he wrote a journal every day, every night before he went to bed, I believe it was, and it's just filled with a ton of stuff that you wouldn't expect back then that it still applies so well today. Mm-hmm. And I just like reading through that stuff.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Buffalo Community Podcast. We're really excited to have the BHS Hall of Famers with us, Dami, Omole, and Amanda Krinke. But before we get to talk to them, we are going to get introduced and go from there. Feel free to do it.
This is the Buffalo Community Podcast, all about the greatest small town in the USA, the people in it, and how it all works together. Here are your hosts, Tyler Reese and Mark Benzer.
Nice fade.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Dami, Amanda, thank you guys so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Really excited to have you, and tons of questions, and excited for the community to get to have a understanding of what kind of people BHS is putting out into the world. And I think I can speak for Tyler and I, and hopefully everybody else. It's pretty impressive. So thanks for coming in. But why don't we get started here, and we'll start with you, Dami. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your basic profile, and we'll dive in from there.
Let's see. My name is Dami Omole, as you guys know now. 18. I love to play soccer, basketball, love reading, love programming especially. I'm going to the U of M Twin Cities next year, and I will be majoring in computer science.
Very cool. Amanda?
I'm Amanda Krinke. I'm 18 years old. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I've always lived in Buffalo. We live on Pulaski Lake, so we love doing lake stuff in the summer, and I love driving the boat and the jet ski and taking the kids tubing. That's really fun. I do a lot of things with the arts. I'm very involved in choir and in the theater program, student council. I was the Minnesota Association of Student Councils president this year, so I oversaw all the high school student councils in the state. And I will also be going to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities in the fall to study criminology.
Cool.
Go Gophers.
Yeah.
Couple of goofers here.
Yeah. So I'm going to, of course I know the answer to this, but if I didn't, what is criminology?
Criminology is the study of the criminal justice department and of psychological profiles of individual criminals as well. So I'd like to go into either criminal profiling or hostage negotiation.
Sure.
So essentially you take, the logistics of law and combine it with psychology, and then you get criminology.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. and programming, computer programming, to me, I'm not a computer guy, but what is that?
So there are many different fields, but I'm mainly focusing on mobile development, so apps and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it'll be mainly either Java or it'll be Swift, which is what iPhones use to program in.
Java or Swift.
So if you have an app go viral, we're going to see you just cruising in a Lambo or something.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
When that happens.
When.
Right?
When. Well, very, very cool. So your experience at BHS, you're here because you've made the Hall of Fame. Bring us a little bit about that. Kind of, why do you think you were nominated?
You have to go first.
Okay. Okay, that's kind of tough because I was really surprised I was nominated or even chosen as the winner. And I'd have to say it was just having a drive, a desire to learn, putting in extra effort, because you can see school as either something you have to do or something that you're kind of happy to be here and happy to learn. And I think very few people, or maybe not, but it seems that very few people have that attitude. So having that makes you stand out, I suppose.
I get to do this.
Yeah.
I don't have to do
Versus
this.
I have to, yeah.
Yeah. It's a mindset.
That's something I wish I had changed a little bit back
Big
in
time.
high school because I skated through. I did just fine. I completely skated through. I didn't apply myself too hard. So I kind of wish I did, but thanks for bringing that to light, Dami.
Yeah.
I would definitely say it's similar to Dami in terms of having that drive and the dedication to put your best self forward. I also was surprised to have been nominated and even more surprised to have won, primarily because although I consider myself to be a smart person, I know I'm not the smartest. I know academics don't come as easily to me as they do to other students. But I have put a lot of effort and focus into personal relationships, both with my teachers, the staff, and peers. And I think that personal connection and genuinely wishing for everyone to succeed is probably why I won.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Good for you guys. So I'm always kind of curious, and I'm going to try to phrase this in a way that isn't as cliche as what is your biggest weakness. But essentially that's what I'm going to ask, is what doesn't come natural? I mean, I think probably people incorrectly assume that you're everything's easy, you have no weaknesses, and that's how you get into the Hall of Fame because high school was a breeze. But my assumption that's not the case. So, Dami, what is it that you have to put maybe a little more effort into than the next person, but the drive, puts you over the top on?
For me, it was, and I'm continually working on it. It's group projects, surprisingly. Anything requiring a group setting, because I find that the way I do things is different from a lot of other people. So when you're put in a group setting and you're forced to work with others, just being able to adapt and be flexible and take into consideration the strengths and weaknesses of other people, and then finding a way to apply it and allowing the final product to turn out really well. And that's always been really hard for me. Sometimes you get frustrated with everyone else and just trying to remain calm and trying to gather everybody and lead them, sort of thing. That's always been hard for me.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know this, but I have, as the beginning of this year, struggled with an anxiety disorder. And that's not something that a lot of people assume about me because I'm outgoing and I'm social and I'm involved in a lot of things. But, anxiety presents itself in different ways to different people. And certain situations, were difficult for me to deal with. So, going through that, getting the help I need and, ultimately turning that into a really great growth and learning point to be able to help other people, I would definitely say was probably the biggest struggle for me this year.
Yeah. And kudos for sharing that, because I think a lot of people don't. And
I'm going to give you guys just kudos for coming up with those answers. Anybody listening, if they're looking for a job and you see it come across your desk, hire them. You guys didn't know these questions were coming, but that was easy, and it's really hard to be critical about yourself. So congratulations on that. That's not an easy thing to do, and we encounter a lot of people. So you're kind of leaps and bounds ahead of what we've seen in the past and every day in our own life. So congrats to both of you on that. And,
Thank you.
I did have a question about the group project. So are you more of a, let me just get it done myself?
Yeah. You guys forget about it. I'll take it home and I'll bring it back.
Enjoy the A, guys.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Right. I think that's probably a pretty common struggle. I mean, and it sounds like you enjoyed that leadership role. And I think a lot of times in high school settings, you're kind of assigned a group, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm trying to recall, 20 years ago. But it's kind of like, okay, you five are going to do a project together. Well, and ideally, you have a leader and then you have followers, and both are equally important. You can't have 5 leaders in a group trying to, so the role of being a follower or a role player is hugely important, but you don't have the luxury of picking your followers.
Yeah, it is difficult. I agree with Dami that there are a lot of projects, especially in Dami and I took CIS writing, which is the first level comp class at the University of Minnesota. So next year when we start the U of M, we won't have to take it because we've already taken it. But I love to write, and I'm good at it too. And we have to do our papers with partners, a couple of them.
Sure.
And it's so frustrating for me to share that responsibility with someone else because I know I'm good at it and I know how I want our paper to look, but it has to be our paper. I can't just do whatever I want. So that's been difficult too.
How many college credits do you guys have as of right now?
Going into my freshman year, I just met with my academic advisor. I will have 18 credits at the high school level, at the college level.
That's like a semester, isn't it?
Yeah, so my freshman semester, technically I'll be starting as a spring semester student, and with my math credits transferring, I shouldn't have to take math while I'm at college.
Okay.
I've completed my associate's degree in computer science while in high school, so
Hire these guys.
Hire me.
So as for the credits, I think I did it through North Hennepin because that was the PSEO college that we could. That was one of the 3 we could pick.
Yep.
And I think I'm shy 4 credits, and it'll be done at the end of this summer. So I'll have around 60 for that associate's degree.
That's congrats.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and then in addition to, sorry, I feel like I'm not letting you.
No, go ahead.
Question.
That's all right.
I think what probably you and a lot of other Hall of Famers have in common is so much more than just a academic schedule. Tell us a little bit. You mentioned you love basketball, you love soccer. Are those, and then you were very involved in student council. My guess is BHS Singers. My guess is BHS Singers is what I did too. Okay. But tell us about what outside the extended school day. What did you do after 2:00 or whenever school gets over nowadays?
You know what? You go first
Okay.
this time.
I don't get a lot of sleep. I love not having free time. If I have any second of free time, I will fill it with something else because I love having things to do. I love being busy. I love meeting new people and being involved in new things, like looking at my semester for next year at the U of M. They recommend 14 to 16, and I'm already taking 18 credits. And I'm already signing up for clubs that I can sign up for and be part of. So throughout, my 4 years, it's usually I've been involved in every theater production except for one. I've been in all 4 different vocal, higher level ensemble groups. So on any given day, I'm usually not in school because I'm out doing something else. My state board meetings were once a month, and that would be during the school day. I also sit as president for the division within our state for student council, so I would have division meetings as well as state board meetings, and then different competitions for BHS Singers. We go and sing at the Rotary, we have large group contests, different concert choir events as well. During the 1-act season, we have theater competitions on the weekends, so that's, similar to sports tournaments where it's a bunch of kids all stuck together in a gym and then you perform your show, and just kind of an exhausting weekend. So I can't think of a time where I went home after school. I've always had something going on.
Yep.
For me, it's a little different because the one thing I do regret a little bit about the way my high school career plan panned out is I wish I would have done more at BHS, like more activities. But I took 7 classes during each quarter. So my school day would be 3 classes at the high school, and then I'd leave and take 4 at the college.
Okay.
So my high school was already extended, but then I also had stuff like piano lessons, computer programming programs, and courses. So that was mainly what my days looked like. We were a bunch of classes.
Sure.
But yeah, so what I plan to do when I go to U of M is just be involved in a lot more clubs and things like that. Not just
Even Hall of
classes.
Famers have regrets.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of go back to, you guys are obviously great leaders inside the school. If you had to give one piece of advice to an incoming freshman, what would it be?
I had this advice given to me by an upperclassman, and they said, do not skate by your freshman year. You have to get involved right away at the beginning. If you're going to wait until your sophomore year to do the sports you love, to do the clubs you love, you're going to be behind and you're not going to meet as many people. She also said in your classes, when you sit down your first day, introduce yourself to the person to your left and your right, and then you automatically have 2 friends in every class that you're in. So that would be my advice to underclassmen.
That's good advice. Mine would be, it's a quote. I just stumbled upon this quote, and it was when I was in 8th grade. It was the summer. I still remember. I was sitting in my basement, and I forgot where I saw it, and it was 80% of success is showing up. And I was thinking about going into high school, and my middle school years were kind of tough because I didn't try very hard. I just went to class, and that's just the way it was. And so I was thinking about high school, and I'm like, I don't really want it to be like that. So I thought, okay, if I can show up, we'll start with that. So I made a goal to show up, to try my best. And then I thought, okay, if I'm here already, might as well give a little extra effort. And so, it kind of snowballed into, giving my absolute best in everything that I did. And so, yeah, that would be my number one piece of advice is start with showing up, because if you can show up with the right attitude, then you can progress into greater things.
I mean, like, they're dropping bombs here. This is all good answers.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So you might go down in history as maybe the most unique senior class ever due to coronavirus. How did that give us your perspective of that?
Well, for me, it looked different in a lot of different ways. Our administration was, doing its best to try and keep students connected and involved online, and it was difficult. I had a lot of teachers who had been teaching for decades and had never had to use Google Classroom before, but now all of a sudden they have to use it every single day. So that learning curve was difficult to kind of try and manage, but in order to streamline success for students, if we were taking a class that didn't reflect in a credit for graduation or was considered, like an unnecessary or a fluff class, they cut it so that we could focus on our college courses. And even though I had enough credits to graduate before I started my senior year, I was still taking college courses through the CIS program to get more credits for college next year. So I continued to take those through St. Cloud State University. And it looked a lot of different ways. I mean, our spring show for the theater program, we did over a Google Meet. Everyone sat in their rooms and they read off the script.
Really?
And we recorded it to have some sort of, memory of it, but we didn't get to perform it and we didn't get to finish our rehearsal process for it. The same with our yearbook. I'm the managing editor for the 2020 Tatanka yearbook this year as well, and we had to finish our last deadline virtually, which normally, Dami was on the yearbook staff last year as well, so he knows how it works. We have this giant work night where everyone is working on their spreads all together at once, and there's like 50 kids, and we stay until like 9 o'clock at night, and you have our advisor and our editors-in-chief and myself running around proofing everything and making sure it looks good before we ship it off to our publishing plant in Dallas. But we didn't have the opportunity to do that this year, so finishing our yearbook and then adding our spring supplement, which is, just a recap of the spring season, and it's a little edition you can buy with your yearbook, but we had to do that all online, so it was a lot of chats on Discord, over Snapchat, over Google Meet. We had Google Classroom meetings, and it was difficult, but we were able to complete it successfully, and in my opinion, we were able to add more content because students were home the whole day, didn't have a whole lot to do, so they could interview people over the phone, and they could run and grab pictures from somebody in their yard,
Sure.
So it ended up being a pretty productive process.
I was honestly, let's see, how do I want to say this?
How do I say that?
Yeah.
How do I say that?
I did not, and I know most people probably didn't, but I didn't really like the whole distance learning thing. It just...
Don't worry, neither did I.
Okay. Because, the classes I took them because I wanted to, human anatomy, CIS human anatomy, I really liked that class. And when we transitioned from in-class to distance learning, you could see, and they tried really hard, and they did, a really good job for the circumstance that they were in, but you could see that in terms of the amount that we were getting for knowledge, it wasn't as much as if it was in a classroom. And it felt lacking a little bit, and I really didn't like that. It's just, and it was unfortunate, but that's kind of my perspective on how that went down. And then, of course, cutting some of the classes, like Amanda said, I was going to take CIS business. I was really looking forward to that, and that got cut. So it's just unfortunate is what I can say about that. Yeah.
I was in the same CIS class as Dami for human anatomy. We had it at different hours, but when it goes online, we can't do our labs, we can't do any of the hands-on learning, and that's primarily for me, that's how I learned best. So staring at a computer screen or having to listen to my teacher on a video was super hard to stay engaged and hard to retain a lot of that information. So it helped in the way that I changed the way I take notes and the way that I'm studying.
Sure.
But it also, to people who need the physical touch to be able to remember things and have a teacher go through the lecture and explain things in person, it was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any conversation at the U of M this fall coming up as far as in person or
We're
virtual?
supposed to find out on Friday of this
Oh,
week.
wow.
Good luck.
Yeah, from what my academic advisor explained, it'll probably be somewhat of a hybrid. They don't want to push move-in days back because for the international students and out-of-state students, it takes a while to coordinate that and plane tickets and everything if they're still is still in process to do so. They don't want to ruin that process, but they're thinking about moving most or all classes to have an online option as well as an in-person option. So it'll probably be a mix, but we're not sure yet.
I've been thinking lately about colleges who offer these campus experiences that are a large part of the reason why kids go there. And just kind of out of curiosity, are there people kind of reconsidering, say you're going to a St. Thomas or, any, and I don't know how much, I'm just kind of thinking you're paying a lot of money to go to school. And part of what you're paying for is the campus experience. And now when that campus experience is in limbo or might even be taken away, have you heard of or are kids kind of reconsidering like, hey, maybe this first year I want to do more of an online setting at a lower cost school, and then maybe jump back into, a higher priced college?
Yeah, I definitely think there are people considering that. I have a friend who goes to Concordia College in Moorhead, which is a very beautiful private school. Tuition is really expensive, and she's still paying full price tuition, even though her classes are online and her teachers aren't providing physical materials anymore, and she doesn't have that same college experience. She's not even living in her dorm and is still having to finish off her tuition costs. So I know a lot of students are considering that. And
yeah, sorry, just to point that out, that really sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible, and it's frustrating because it's not fair to anyone. It's not fair to the college to have been expecting this payment and needing this payment to pay teachers, and then all of a sudden not being able to teach, not being able to provide the services they want to provide. And it's terrible for students to have to pay for something that they're not receiving. Right. So,
yeah, that's
agreed.
Tough.
Very well put. Very well put on that. What inspires you guys?
You first.
Okay, all right. Let's see. For me, it's reading. So I really like reading biographies. Doesn't matter what they did. I just really like reading about people's experiences, and then because you don't get to you only get one life. So being able to read is almost being able to live through other people's lives, and that inspires me. Is reading about other people's lives, the different adventures they've taken. Let's see, the lessons they've learned, and then being able to take those lessons and apply them in my life, and being able to kind of avoid some of the pitfalls that they went through, that inspires me. Not only that, but certain biographies inspire me. Like one that's not usually mentioned a lot, one for me is Benjamin Franklin. It's just, I like the way, even though it was back in the day, the way he scheduled his life, the way he made great, he really tried to make himself better, which is what I want to do. So that inspires me.
Very cool.
For me, faith is a huge aspect of my life. My relationship with God and that faith aspect I have with other people is super motivating, and it's definitely something that keeps me afloat on most days. I'm also super motivated by, my younger siblings and my cousins wanting to provide the best example that I can for them and ultimately help create a better world that they can live in and do the same thing that I'm doing, is just striving to be the best that they can be.
And being the oldest, you've set the bar pretty high. So that's a good thing, being a good example. And so I wrote down Ben Franklin because I've obviously heard of him, but now you've inspired me to. Any other people stand out that Ben Franklin, and then maybe one or two others?
Ben Franklin. If we're going ancient times, it'd be Ben Franklin.
Ancient?
Ben Franklin, Marcus Aurelius, and then Socrates. And yeah, Socrates. I like reading their biographies, and they're like, Marcus Aurelius has this book that it's just he wrote a journal every day, every night before he went to bed, I believe it was, and it's just filled with a ton of stuff that you wouldn't expect back then, that it still applies so well today. And I just like reading through that stuff.
One thing you said that I try to tell my kids all the time, and obviously my kids are going to make a ton of mistakes, but one thing that I've always tried to tell them is, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but other people are going to make mistakes, and it's better to learn from their mistakes so just taking that kind of struck a chord with me of the best lessons to learn are the mistakes that other people have made, and try to avoid making those yourself.
Yeah. Well, we do a little bit of a speed round question usually on these Buffalo Community Podcasts. Have you ever watched one of these episodes, by the way?
I
watched
The last one you did, the chiropractor, Buffalo Family.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to start with that. Mark's got one up for you right now.
Hot lunch or cold lunch?
Cold lunch.
Hot lunch.
What's your favorite?
I really like the cheese-filled breadsticks.
There you go.
It's really good.
And what's your go-to on cold lunch?
Cold lunch, it's rice and chicken with green
That
beans.
sounds really good.
With green beans?
Yeah,
That's just what you eat every day?
basically. If I switch things up, I'll do meat, cheese, and crackers.
Okay, just like a salami or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't ever stop eating that. That's the problem.
It's gone. I guess I'm done.
Who ate all day? I did? No.
Mountains or beach?
Beach.
I want to say beach, but I also want to say mountain because I've been to a beach, but I've never been to a mountain.
Sure.
Good point.
Yeah.
Do they still talk about me quite a bit at BHS? I mean, I'm sure.
Mr. Guida does.
Yeah.
Very glowing
Yeah.
recommendation.
Prime example of what you don't want to become, kids.
All right, perfect.
Buddy chum.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't have another speed round.
Okay.
How about, we've done this one before. It's kind of cliche, but
Sure.
it kind of fits. Apple or Android?
100% Apple now. I used to be such a hardcore Android guy, and I just went to the other side fully. 100%.
Wow. What?
I really like Apple's iPad Pro, and I got one, and I was like, no, I have to get the phone with it.
Right.
It's just weird now. It's a mix of both.
Yeah.
So I had to give up my because I really liked Android because they let you code for them, and it's pretty easy. It's just $20 to sign up, and they let you program for their apps and stuff like that. But Apple is like, it's $100, and you have to go through all these things to code for them. But now I'm a full Apple guy.
Apple guy. Not too many people. People dig their heels in,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
and they're not willing to. But kudos to you. Tyler? Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
You
My
get to answer
household
to it.
is
Yeah.
super split. My dad is super gung-ho Android. Like Samsung Android processing, that is the way to do everything in your life. Your computer, your tablets, your phone, everything. And so for the longest time, none of us had a problem with that until we started having issues with our Android phones and not being super appreciative of the way that they work. So my mom and my sister got Apple. My dad and I stayed on Samsung for a while, and I stuck with him as long as I could, but my phone is terrible, and I can't try and argue on the defense of that. It's just bad. So I love my Microsoft, my Android computer. I would never want to go to a Mac, but I definitely need to switch phones.
This isn't a paid promotion, so.
Yeah.
But if we do get paid,
If you're right.
feel free to send a check. Burgers or pizza?
Probably pizza. More variety.
Burgers. I don't know. I'd go with burgers.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
Favorite social media app?
Probably Instagram, but I also like the Facebook community posts because people post weird things in there, and I think it's super funny.
Okay, I'm glad you can laugh about
Yeah.
it, because if you don't laugh about it, it can turn into a pretty dark place.
Yeah.
Instagram as well.
Yep.
It's just colorful.
Yep.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, anything that you'd want to touch on before we wrap everything up?
I don't think so.
I want to say congratulations to both of you on an excellent high school career. Congrats to your parents, and kudos to raising you guys as well, because that you've impressed us. I'll speak for you. You've impressed us on all your answers, and good luck with your college careers as well. And if there's ever anything that we can do to help, or if we ever need jobs, we'll just call you guys.
Or we need great guests again. We'll just go
Absolutely.
episode
Absolutely.
2. So.
That'd be fun.
Very good.
No, I think we can all feel pretty good about what's going on in our schools.
Yep.
Prime examples here.
Absolutely. For the Buffalo Community Podcast, I'm Tyler Reese.
And I'm Mark Benzer.
And I'm Dami Omole. Wait, I shouldn't have said and. I'm Dami Omole.
All right. Thanks so much for coming in, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was really fun.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you guys.